So for this video, what we're going to be trying to do is to show how to record some MIDI data off a keyboard. So as you can hear here, I've got the notes of the piano playing into Cubase. Obviously the MIDI keyboard should be set up in front of you, and you've installed or added an instrument track. So I've got the Hallian Sonic and the grand piano playing there as well. So we've done them stages previously, you should be able to get to this point here. What I've done is I've set myself some left and right locators, and what I'm going to notice is if I've got it hit to record now, record enable, and I go to press record right now, look what happens. So I'm trying to press record on the keyboard and I'm trying to record. So I could just keep playing round and round, but because I've got cycle on and I've got MIDI data getting captured, what you'll notice is the data is copying round and round and round in the first place, so it hasn't just got my one piece that I was playing. If you double click on that, you'll see it looks quite busy, it looks like a mess really, because obviously I've got loads of MIDI parts playing on there, and it's difficult to say, right, what time am I keeping into and how to stop and start it. So there's a couple of tools and resources we're going to use in this transport section to solve them problems. So the first one is this thing down here called the Metronome, and you can activate it using the C control. So if I press C, or if I click on the Metronome icon on the transport bar, hopefully we can hear this. So that could then lead me into trying to play properly. So by having the metronome on, that's going to make your life a million times easier trying to keep in time with something. Then, because obviously when I'm back to the beginning, I'm ready to press record and I'm about to hit record, you can't have your hands on the piano and have your finger on the record function at the same time as well. So what we can do is, if you right click in the transport bar till you get your drop down menu here, you can find something called pre-roll and post-roll. Now it might not be greatly visible because obviously everything else on the transport marker, so what you might want to start doing is you can actually drop out some of the other functions. Obviously I wanted some of these, to be honest, but I'm just going to drop out some other options so that when I go to add in this pre-roll and post-roll, you can start to see some things appear down here. Hopefully it's still a little bit hidden, so what I'm going to try and do is get rid of the transport functions for now, and hopefully you can then see this a little bit clearer. So activate pre-roll. So basically what pre-roll is it's a function where it'll count so many bars in. So imagine your drummer in a recording situation. If you're going to do a live recording where everyone's playing together at the same time, the drummer will go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you'll all start. At least you'll know at what point to begin. So that's what this is going to do for us. So if we double click on the left hand side option here and we put in 2, what that's going to give us is 2 bars pre-roll before the recording happens, so we can test that and make sure that's going to work. So obviously I've got rid of my transport functions here to be able to see that, so I'll bring that back in again. The pre-roll's gone to 3 for some reason. Go down to 2 again, please. That. Okay, so I go back to the beginning and press record. Watch what happens now. I've got my metronome engaged, so I know what time, what the time's going to be, and obviously I've got a 2-bar pre-roll. So listen to this: 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Then it turns red and starts recording. So what that now means is I've got a fighting chance to be able to get press record, still keeping the time in my head, and get my hands to the piano. Okay, you can do it for 1 bar, you could do it for 4 bars. If you were recording in a proper studio setup and you had to go between 2 rooms, I mean, it's obviously a bit difficult by yourself, but you could set it to 8 or 10 bars. You could count, get it in the room where you're in now. Obviously, leave the control room still counting 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, getting behind your drum kit or your guitar, your piano, whatever you're going to play, and then get ready to start recording that time period. I know that sounds daft and I know it sounds stupid, but that's the benefit of having a pre-roll count. Gives you an opportunity to do things that you need to. So anyway, we've got record engaged on the piano section, we've got the pre-roll in, and we've got the metronome on. So we're going to try this, we're going to try recording 4 bars. So after this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, not too far at a time as well. But to check that over, we can actually zoom in and can see the notes. So if I have a look at the minute, you can see the sections where it's slightly before, okay, the beat, or slightly after the beat. So obviously when I've been playing, I've not been ridiculously out of sync, and it might sound a little bit more natural, to be honest, by having that. But if there's points where it's ridiculously out of time, what we can do is we can use a quantize function. Now I've been using mainly crotchets, so we're mainly playing on the beat, but if you have a look down on the left hand as well, there's some offbeat stuff as well. So being able to put that on the offbeat means we're going to have to use the 8th note quantization. So the majority is on the beat, so we could potentially put it to crotchets. But if we go for the 8th notes, it means the stuff that's on the left hand is not going to be missed out as well. So if obviously we look at that MIDI region, that MIDI section that I've recorded, and I press Q, I don't know if you can see that happening down here too well. Let me do Control Z. Let me just see if it's out of sync again. Yeah, so notice it's slightly out of time, out of places. If I press Q, you can see that it's quantizing it and dragging it to the beat. So hopefully, the pre-roll's going to still be on, so we'll hear that. The quantization factor has now meant that all the notes are going to line up hopefully on the bar. Obviously there might be a little issues like this note down here where I've played it at the wrong point, but that's where we can actually use the MIDI to help us out, because we can lengthen and shorten notes. So depending on where the beat was actually meant to be in the first place, to be honest, it was meant to be on the first note there, but you can actually say, right, well, if this was too long, we can drag it back in. So you can actually still edit the quantization notes afterwards. It doesn't, if they've gone on too far, you can actually bring them back. You've got to be careful, obviously, because the point of you recording it in is to make it sound more natural. But if I'm actually extending the length of the notes and making them as long as I wanted them to, I might as well have drawn it in the first place. And then it does sound a little bit less natural and a bit more robotic. But hopefully you can see the benefit of, if you do make slight mistakes and quantize it at different levels, it's not going to be too bad afterwards. So in the process of making mistakes on quantization, look, if I put the quantization on what we call whole notes or semi-breves, what might happen, let me just drop that onto there. Once I go to quantize it to whole notes, look what it's done, it's put all the notes to the closest bar. So it hasn't put it on the beats where I wanted it, it's actually sat them on top of everything, so that would obviously ruin the song altogether. It wouldn't sound very good. So when we do the quantization factor, you need to make sure that you're on the quantization point that you want to. And let's say most of mine were crotchets and the quavers was in the left hand doing these offbeat notes here. So really we want to try and get the quantization and note values correct so that we don't make mistakes when quantization, using and applying quantization. If we do make mistakes, we can do the Control Z thing and then we can look for the next one. Or you can actually use the mouse to click and drag the notes around as well, so that's an option. Let's see how you get on with that one.